Good morning. 9 o'clock. Thursday, February 9th. It's going to be a good day today. A little cloudy today. I think. I was like kind of in the zone last night late, but it sounded like maybe the wind blew last night. Travis, good to see you on here. Man, you don't get on here very often. You're hiding out in some fancy office these days, so had more fun when you were out driving around in the cold weather and listening about your cat stories, so. Kathy and Jim, thanks for coming out last night. Jim, helping with the chairs. We got 100 more chairs. I mean, we didn't get any kind of notice at all. We didn't get any notice at all this week about the chairs showing up. They just showed up, and we were 3 short. So, but it's all right. We got those things put together in like 25 minutes. Everybody was there. It was great. So, but we have room to grow. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. We'll come in Sunday and they'll all be full. That'd be all right too, wouldn't it? So, I don't know, but my text groups are just blowing up this morning. I don't think anybody can see that or anything, but it's very distracting. I don't know. There are challenges that come, and I appreciate the text group of the guys that came out to the stand conference this past year, and I appreciate their stands. The thing that I find that I'll just share some thoughts today. I don't have a whole lot today anyway, so I'm going to share about 2 thoughts with you maybe, and I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I think social media has given people a platform that I don't know that we necessarily need. I just find that preachers today, and I'm talking about preachers, and I can because I am one, okay? So some of you guys may not want to listen to any of this, be thinking, blah, 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 but, preachers today, so many of them have gotten what I call like a rock star mentality, and for preachers, you go to these conferences, and it's always what we call big names that are preaching at them. Same guys, they kind of run a circuit, and I don't know. They're always ones that are in the bigger churches. They're the evangelists that preach in the bigger churches, and those churches are big, obviously, because of the great abilities of those guys, and so preachers are just like everybody else, and they have feet of clay. And we have in the world, we have the great football players and the basketball players, the baseball players. We have the celebrities that are in the movies. We have the whoever else, fame and notoriety, and then in the fundamental realms, we have these preachers that have that kind of notoriety, and really what you find is that these guys are really good at preaching to preachers, and and I don't know, but it has become dangerous. I believe it has become very dangerous in that these men are treated this way, and they got to fight the pride, and because the scriptures it doesn't show us anything men being like this, and preachers thinking that they need to be the influencer of other preachers, and that's what we have. We have these guys that think that they are the influencers, and I don't know. And you know what you find? You find that the majority of them end up compromising somewhere along the line to keep the fame and the fortune. And I think we got to be careful with that. And I think preachers really need to be careful of who their mentors are and who they keep company with. And so I don't know. It's I think we all need to be careful, and I think the number one priority for me is being a servant of the Lord, to know and understand that I'm called by Him, and that the second thing is that He's called me to be the pastor of Platte Valley Baptist Church, and that's where I need to spend the majority of my time. I mean, I don't have a problem going to friends and preaching for them every once in a while. Encouraging their people, but for the majority of the time, I don't need to be doing that. I need to be pastoring my people that God's given me, and so. But I think the social media has definitely given people a platform that we never had before, and most of the time it's dangerous, and you got to watch some of that. So, but anyway, so. I was reading the Baptist history today and just read a story, and I might share it on Sunday. I'm not sure yet, so I probably won't share it on here. But it just talked about a man that was a pastor in Dallas, Texas, years ago, like the turn of the 1900s, right? And so, but he went through just a horrible experience, and brought on by his own negligence, and. But through that, it was actually through a hunting accident. And so I guess maybe that's what got this whole thought moving and processing today in my own mind. And just talked about how, I guess I can share it. It doesn't matter whether I share it again Sunday or not. But George Truett, he was a pastor of First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. And he was born in the late 1800s, died, I think, in 1940s, somewhere around there. But he always hunted with another pastor and the chief of the Dallas Police Department. And so tells us that I think they were all, I'm not sure how old the chief of police was, but he was like 30 years old, George Truett was. And anyway, while they were bird hunting, he ended up wasn't practicing firearm safety, obviously, and he shot the gentleman that was the chief of police in the leg with a shotgun. And a few days later, the man died because of that. And so, and it tells us that the whole time that was going on, I mean, he just really struggled with his life, and struggled with he didn't think he could ever pastor again, look people in the eye, because of the shame and the guilt, the remorse, everything that you could just imagine what was going through his mind during all of that time. And then through a bunch of lack of sleep, and then through God ministering to his heart, he did get back in the pulpit, and God used him greatly. I mean, that guy, and you're not going to find that he was one that was out there trying to get on some social media platform, didn't have it, but that man was used powerfully by God in the ministry that he had there at First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. And it was just powerful to think. And then that's the whole thought that I wanted just to think about today, and not just for a pastor, but I think this is for everyone. I ask you the question, what makes a man or a woman of God? What makes one that really stands out? You know, not in what I described earlier, some rock star mentality preacher, okay? So you get somebody like that, just turn them off, all right? I mean, you just don't need to, and people can say what they want, but a man or a woman's dress reveals a lot about their attitude. You see some preacher get on there and he's got some ratty jeans that are all torn up, and he's got some Under Armour skin tight shirt on, and showing off his muscles and talking to you about walking humbly with God. I mean, he's a hypocrite, okay? Dress reveals a lot, all right? And so I'm not talking about somebody that's running a church of 30,000, like whatever the guy, I can't remember the guy's name there in Texas. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what makes someone a man or a woman of God that you can tell walks closely with God. I mean, just you just see there's something different in their lives. I have met some men, and I don't think this is I don't mean this as a slam, but they're hard to find. I think they're really hard to find, those men that really have an exceptional walk with God. And what is it that gives them that gift to be able to reach in the hearts of others and truly be used in a powerful way? And I think it's scary to say this because none of us want to go through these things, but I think that it's the ones that have walked through a deep valley of some sort that God uses them greatly to reach the hearts of others. And that man there in Dallas was an example of that. Just the incredible grief that he had, the shame, the battles that he had to get through to be able to stand in front of someone after that and not consider himself to be a murderer, I'm sure, you know, and whatever, even though it was a total accident. But it just, I don't know. I think that it helps me to understand that when God allows us to go through a valley, whatever the challenge is, whatever it may be, a shallow one this time, or it may be a very deep valley that you go through. There's great hurt in some people. There have been great losses in some people's lives. And you know, there's a gentleman here in our community that I think he's buried 3 sons, you know, and imagine how difficult that would be. And you know, they're just people that have really walked in that deep valley, and I do believe that is what makes us what we ought to be as we walk in this day and age. And you know, we've always heard that statement that a faith not tested is a faith not trusted. And so, but who wants to really have our faith tested in that deep valley? But I know it's through those that's how God makes a man or a woman of God. And so if you're going through one of those right now, you know what? God's wanting to do something special in your life. And I think that I think even our church family, you know, I see how God over the last 3 years or so, or even since we just back in 2014 just said, you know, Lord, we just don't want to be status quo. We want you to do something with us, do something great in our lives, and help us to do something great in this community. Not looking for glory, not looking for praise. You know, the world. Look, if the world praises you, then you ought to be careful, okay? You're probably walking too close with the world, all right? But you do what is going to honor and glorify God. And as we honor and we glorify God and we trust Him, then we see God has given us just bunches of people that have trusted Christ, that have, you know, followed the Lord in believers' baptism by letting them see that they walk closely to God and they're a disciple of Christ. And are we perfect? No, not in any way. But God has also then allowed our church family to go through some very deep valleys, and we've lost some good people, and I've buried many good friends, and you see that, and then God has then allowed our church family then to minister to this community in a way that we never could before. And so I just I don't know. It just, if you're going through a valley, then just know that God is wanting to do something great in your life, and you just hang in there and you just keep walking close to Him, and you're going to see God do something great in your life. You may not see it in this lifetime, but you'll see it in eternity, and you'll know that it was all worth it. And with that, the last two verses of Psalm 31, O love the Lord, all ye His saints, for the Lord preserveth the faithful, and plentifully rewardeth the proud doer. Be of good courage, and He shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord. And so, you're right, Benna. I remember that. I remember that tragedy in your life. And I was young, but, I just thought how sad and devastating that must have been. And you know what? And now you look back and you see how God has, it just made you, He made you a different person, didn't He? I mean, it's through that you say that it brought you to Him and changed your life, and then brought you Henry. And I mean, it's, we can look at them now later and see, but when you're going through it, it's really a struggle, isn't it? And so, but you know what? God can use you and use all of us, and so let's just hang in there, right? Whatever the trials are, and love the Lord, as He says, and know that He preserveth the faithful, and He'll reward the proud doer. Those guys, I feel bad. I somewhat feel bad. They also make me mad. These guys that think that they have to, I don't know. It's almost a narcissistic idea that they have to have all of this recognition. There's one guy that he'll go, for months or even a year or so, and just stays out of the limelight, and then all of a sudden he'll post something, and he does it to draw attention. That's all he does. And I feel bad for his people in that church that all they're doing is following this guy who's got this lifestyle idea that he's some kind of a preacher celebrity, and all he's going to do is bring himself hurt and destruction, and he's going to destroy a church family is what he's going to do. But God will reward the proud doer. And so let's just walk. Hey, I got my own problems, and I don't need to spend a whole lot of time dwelling on that guy. I got to keep my own pride down and walk humbly with God. And we all need to, and allow God to use us. And that's the thing. That's the whole rub on this. And this is the scary part, is that it seems to bring us to that point in our lives where we can really do battle with pride, is He brings us through that deep valley, showing us that the only way we're going to get through something is through God. And that's how we're going to be used greatly. And so, I don't know, that was the main thought today. Go into Proverbs chapter 8. And remember how I told you, I'm not going to read this. You guys have to study this out on your own. But it has helped me. And there might be some great theologians out there who studied this harder than me. But Proverbs chapter 8, I think, gives you the example of what I said. When I see the word wisdom in Proverbs, in my own mind, okay, I change that word wisdom to Jesus, okay? And it just makes sense to me. And it seems to me that the word wisdom represents so very often, if not every time, Jesus, okay? Jesus is wisdom, and it's through Him that He will guide you and give you discernment, understanding, and help you in practicing your life in living the way that you ought to. But Proverbs chapter 8, you read Proverbs chapter 8 on your own sometime, and tell me that that's not talking about Jesus. I truly believe that wisdom there, you can easily replace the word wisdom with Jesus in Proverbs 8, and you'll see how powerful that is. So anyway, that's another thought for another day. And then the last thing, this goes along with what I'm thinking about with these preachers, and in notoriety and recognition also probably comes, you just always got to follow the money. I hate to say that even with preachers, but so often we have to follow the money. And this is the thought, okay? I haven't studied this out, and so this is the problem with doing these devotions. Sometimes I speak things and as I'm thinking them and haven't thought through them real well yet, but this is a thought that I've been having, and I want to put it out there, that in the Old Testament, we see that when someone faithfully followed God, and I mean they were faithful to God, Abraham, Moses, David, Solomon, those guys, when they were faithful to God, God gave them an abundance of riches. Do I want to live during that time? Absolutely not. I don't want to have to go through all the law. I don't want to have to do all of that. And so here's my thoughts, okay? In that Old Testament, in the hard style life that they had to do, and the animals that had to be sacrificed daily, and those kinds of things, that God rewarded them in that life with material blessings. And we see that, right? But in the New Testament, the New Covenant, and we're living during the church age right now, and we call on Christ to be our Savior, and now we have more of a challenge to walk in obedience because of the grace, and it's always been grace, okay? But their sin was always in front of them through the sacrificing of all of these animals. And so it seems like, in my thoughts, okay, God allowed them to enjoy life with prosperity, and by prosperity, with great wealth. They had great wealth. But in the New Testament, Jesus didn't even have a pillow. He used a rock as a pillow. He didn't own anything. And think about that today. And it shows us that you can't serve God and mammon. You can't serve God and money, Matthew chapter 6. And it's almost like in the New Testament, then, there's a new view of wealth. And the wealth that we ought to be looking at is the wealth of eternal benefits, and living in God's grace, and being obedient through faith, and not being so concerned about the wealth of the day. And that sure seems to be a battle with so many, and even preachers. Be careful in when you follow the money. And so we just don't need to follow the money. And why do I think some of these things? I just don't see God ever saying that in the New Testament that wealth is a good thing. As a matter of fact, I see in the New Testament that wealth always seems to be a curse, or definitely a major responsibility to take care of it the way that you ought to. Last thing, Matthew 26, I've been rambling a lot today, haven't I? But this one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver, and from that time he saw opportunity to betray him. I find it interesting that this is written right after we have the woman who anointed Jesus with the precious ointment. And they get mad at Jesus because they say, we could have used that to sell that precious ointment and made some money. And then right after that, we see Judas go out and make a deal. And was it love of money? I mean, is that what it was that caused him to become bitter? Was it that he had been following Jesus and he got tired of using a rock as a pillow? Did he get tired of being swarmed by people all the time and couldn't find any privacy, or just felt like he was giving too much of himself? Those are some of the thoughts that I had during this. And you know what? Ministry is about people. And Jesus is about people. And we as believers need to be about people. We need to be walking in a precious, powerful way through the leading of the Holy Spirit of God, and working and helping people and telling them about Jesus and encouraging believers, and spend our lives doing this. Stop chasing the money. Stop chasing the notoriety. Stop chasing the celebrity status. I mean, we just need to, we need to be a tool that is used by God, and allow God to take us and make us what He wants us to be, and whatever valleys we go through, that God brings us to the point where we realize and understand that we walk humbly with Him and just make a difference in the lives of people. It really isn't about your profession. It really isn't about your paycheck. It really isn't about how big of a home you can have to impress the neighbors who really don't care at all. And rather, we need to, there's nothing wrong with having things that are nice. I'm not saying that at all. Thank God for what we have. But I think that there has to be a give and a take. And I think that one of the things that we ought to give up in our life is the idea that to see God's blessings means that you're going to have a lot of wealth. I don't agree with that at all. I think that the more faithful we can be in God, the less wealth matters, and we just need to walk closely to God. So anyway, those are some of the thoughts. You know, it's just kind of a somber day. You know, some guys that I know have kind of taken a veer theologically, practically, you know, in some things. And then you stand up against that, and then you're called the bad guy, you know. I don't care. That's all right. I got broad shoulders, so we can handle it. But it's just sad to see people turn and fall prey to that, and I just don't want to do that. And I know you don't either. So let's get out there and let's walk humbly with God. So, hey, I won't be on here tomorrow. You need to pray for us. We have our couples retreat, and look what I found. I found these in the drawer, the cooking drawer, right? Does that look like something you would use for cooking? I'm a little concerned about this marriage retreat, couples retreat. Maybe you know, Pastor and Teresa need some help. I don't. Scary, huh? Anyway, it's a good day. So I'll be out of here. For those in our church, hey, Todd, you're good. That's what my wife says it is too, a pulled pork shredder. I just don't know. That just looks a little dangerous. I wonder if she got a permit for these things. I don't know. Anyway, Lord willing, be back on here Monday. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. And if you're not in this area, find your place at a good church somewhere and worship the Lord this weekend. So, yep, definitely not a back scratcher. No. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend.